McClure, can you hear me?
Yes, Captain. I can hear you.
What do you see?
It's a sub, sir. No doubt about that.
McClure, do you hear that?
Yes, sir, I do. It sounds like hammering. It's coming from midship. I'm moving toward there now.
McClure, when you get there, tap on the hull. See if you can get a response.
Yes, sir.
In 1963, the American television anthology series The Twilight Zone aired an episode titled The 30-Fathom Grave. In this fictional story, which is also set in the year 1963, a U.S. Navy destroyer is 100 miles off the coast of Guadalcanal when its sonar picks up an unusual sound coming from below their ship. The crew believes it sounds like something banging on metal. After some investigation, they realize that there is a sunken submarine on the ocean floor, but there have been no recent sinkings in the area. In fact, after they send a diver down to investigate, they realize it's a World War II sub, number 714, an American ship that was sunk during the Battle of the Solomon Sea, almost 20 years earlier. And yet, they are now hearing a knocking sound coming from the inside of the ship. Stunned that someone could still be alive in there, the ship's captain asks Pacific Fleet Command for an emergency priority rescue operation. They send their diver back down to ascertain which part of the submarine the knocking sound is coming from. But when he starts knocking on the hull to verify that someone really is alive inside, the ship goes quiet. During his inspection, he does find a dog tag outside the ship belonging to one of the crew. But quite bizarrely, he recognizes the name on the dog tag. It belongs to his shipmate, the destroyer's chief boatswain's mate, Chief Bell. And looking aghast at the sight of the dog tag, in conjunction with everything else that's going on, Chief Bell later confirms that it is in fact his. Evidently, Bell has spent the last 20 years living in extreme guilt, because as that submarine's signalman, during the battle, he had dropped a signal light while trying to change the infrared filter at night. As a result, Japanese destroyers saw the light and then attacked the sub, sinking it and blowing Bell off the tower into the water, where he was later rescued. As the only survivor, feeling the overwhelming burden of responsibility for the deaths of all of his shipmates, hearing this knocking sound, he now believes his dead shipmates are demanding that he join them. The story ends with Bell jumping overboard, never to be seen again. Quite a gripping story, written by Rod Serling himself, and just one of many incredible episodes produced by The Twilight Zone. But that story is purely fictional, right? The ghosts of dead sailors remaining trapped inside their ships and spooking their fellow shipmates. How could Rod Serling ever dream up such a fantastic story? Well, he himself did serve in World War II, fighting in the Philippines. And perhaps, as these following stories would indicate, he merely heard submariners telling stories about things they had actually encountered while working in those confined compartments of their ships, fathoms deep under the surface. This is the Smoke Pit, and these are true stories from submariners. Stories about their submarines being haunted. The man wearing utilities.
Just head back up once you find it. Let me know.
Yeah, got it. Oh, sorry. I didn't think anybody else would be down here.
What's that? You talking to me?
No, not you. Hey, who else is down here? Hello? What the hell?
This first story was submitted by a sailor with the user handle IceSir. He writes, I was by myself in the engine room of a submarine on the midwatch, just a Newly reported sailor trying to find equipment so I could display knowledge to one of the watchstanders. There are a number of bays in engine room lower level, with narrow passages that pass through the center. I came down one of the ladders, and I swore I saw someone walk across the ship about 15 feet in front of me. I could hear his footsteps as he walked around a corner and out of sight. 3 problems. 1, he was wearing utilities, an older light blue blouse and dark navy slacks. But nobody had utilities anymore. They had been phased out 3 years earlier. 2, there was only one other person awake in the engine room that late at night, and he was standing at the top of the ladder behind me, waiting for me to come back up with an answer to his question. And 3, this person wasn't actually there. I checked, and there was no one else in the compartment. I wrote it off as sleep deprivation, but I will admit, it shook me for a while. Fast forward to 4 months later, I had gone out to sea with another submarine of the same type. While I was aboard, I met a sailor who had previously served on my ship. After a few weeks of standing watch with him, he ends up telling me a story of a sailor who had killed himself while on watch, something that had happened when he served on my ship, almost a decade earlier. And where did he do it? In engine room, lower level, while wearing his utilities. I wish I could have gotten a picture of the look on my face when he told me that.
Hello? Hello? Hey. Who was that? Anybody there? Squid, is that you? Okay, alright.
This following story was submitted to author R.S. Russo and shared in his book, Odd and Chilling Encounters, Part 2. The sailor in this case remained anonymous. He writes, I'm in the Navy, and I'm a submariner aboard the USS West Virginia. I came back from my last deployment convinced that my boat is haunted. As a missile technician, I work on nukes and therefore have to provide security. We have a camp watch, a guy who looks at a panel and hangs around the missile compartment second level, and who is my immediate supervisor. And then there's me, as the roving patrol. As the name says, I rove and walk for hours and take logs. My section was on watch from 23:30 to 07:30, so I did have sufficient sleep and rest that day before starting my shift. A new watch bill was promulgated that switched me from being in control as a sticks guy, a driver, down to the missile house so I could get some experience. I was taking logs in the MCUL. Side note here, for any submariners out there, I wasn't sure how this was pronounced, MCUL, M-C-U-L. In the military, a lot of these acronyms, sometimes we will just pronounce them. For instance, I was a McQuiss, a Marine Corps instructor of water survival. We don't even pronounce it like it actually sounds, but right, you just, instead of saying M-C-I-W-S all the time, you just say McQuiss. So, McCull, or MCUL. Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing it, somebody correct me in the comments. So anyway, he writes, I was taking logs in the MCUL, the missile compartment upper level. As I passed the missile tubes, they have a diameter of approximately 7 feet 4 inches, I noticed in the corner of my eye that there was a shadow matching my speed and walking along with me on the port side. A cold chill went up my spine, and for a brief moment, I just froze in place. I tried to rationalize what I'd just seen, and my first thought was that someone was up there with me. So I crossed between the tubes with my flashlight on. I looked both ways. I was completely alone. The lights down there mounted above my head, so I debunked the only other possibility, which was that my own shadow had been projected across the other side. I freaked the hell out, and I immediately went down one level to see my camp watch and the weapons tech, who were both chilling by Tube 13. I asked them if they'd ever seen any weird stuff while on watch, and they instantly answered me, yes. And it turned out that other guys had also seen and experienced strange things. Apparently, it had been a thing ever since a guy had shot himself on board the boat around 2011. During the next few days, I felt a little paranoid. I found myself constantly looking around. But I wasn't too shaken by that event. I spoke with some more senior guys in my division, and they told me stories of the Maryland. They said on that ship, the nuclear weapons storage area signs posted between the tubes in MCL would move in unison while in port without any ship movement. My senior chief told me that back on the Rhode Island during the early 2000s, he saw shadows in the MCL and lower level, as well as seeing visions of severed heads sitting on valves and horizontal surfaces. His worst experience was once again in MCL when he saw a faceless apparition hanging between the tubes. 3 guys on that ship apparently tapped out and ended up being sent to mental institutions, while the rest of the missile division guys just sucked it up and lived with these hauntings. Another experience I had, I was located all the way forward in a compartment in the MCL on the center line of the ship, where I could look down all 24 tubes and see everything. I'd been feeling cold chills down my spine, and I felt as though I was being watched. I was determined to ignore the feelings and just keep doing my job. I then turn around, and I see a shadow run behind a tube on the starboard side. I raced towards the location with my flashlight and ran the same drill as I did with my first experience. And again, no one was there. I never saw anything again, but I always got chills each time I was up there.